Hello everybody, it's me Colton Johnson with Empty Popcorn Bucket Productions. The time has finally come to jump back into the MCU Rewatch series to cover the movies of Phase 5. The movies and series of Phase 4 had its up and downs. It's hard to build on the greatness that is the Infinity Saga. There was a lot of ideas offered that felt all over the place, whether that be intentional or bad planning. The multiverse saga still feels very empty-ended and feels like it's leading nowhere. Most phases typically have an Avengers level movie to finish the phase strong, but that was missing here. So let's see if Phase 5 will find its footing and build towards the true future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before I continue, if you haven't yet, be sure to check out the other videos in this MCU Rewatch series, and please like this video and subscribe. Phase 5 of the MCU kicked off in 2023 with the promise of a bold new era. KANG as the next big threat, multiversal mayhem, and a stacked slate of films to push the saga forward. But behind the scenes, things got messy. Ant-Man and the Wasp was supposed to launch KANG's dominance, but it stumbled hard with critics and audiences alike. Combine that with off-screen controversy surrounding Jonathan Majors, and suddenly, Marvel found itself rethinking everything. Major rewrites, shuffled release dates, and a quiet retreat from the whole KANG plan, followed by Blade, once a highly anticipated entry, has now been delayed so many times, it's not just on the back burner, it's in the cupboard under the sink, collecting dust. And no longer even part of Phase 5, though technically still not cancelled. The studio is clearly in damage control mode, shifting focus from sprawling interconnected chaos to trying to tell solid standalone stories again. So with all that behind the scenes turbulence in mind, let's take a closer look at the movies of Phase 5 and see what stuck the landing and what landed in the mud. First off, leading this phase is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I gotta be honest, when I first watched this, I really liked it and had a really fun time with it. This was also one of my first newer movie reviews on this channel, so that's fun. But revisiting this movie, holy crap, is this movie bad. It feels like a really bad dream, not just a nightmare, but a really bad dream. You can say my opinions have changed in the last 2 years. There's some moments that are obviously ridiculous, and even moments where it's so bad that it's kind of good and funny to watch. There's even some stellar visuals, but then there's visuals that remind me of Spy Kids. The writing in this movie feels like a big joke after the next, but instead of the joke being funny, it's just not really a joke and more of just an insult to the audience. Paul Rudd, yes, is still a lot of fun, and Jonathan Majors is phenomenal, but feels so out of place. It's unfortunate that they are completely sidelining his character, and it's also ridiculous how the big bad and the presumed big bad of the saga gets defeated by ants. This movie is so frustrating and very messy. There's parts where I feel like it doesn't even know what it's trying to do. I really hope there's some resolution to KANG, whether that be Doom straight up getting rid of him or something. Also, Cassie Lang drives me insane. Definitely gives me Disney Channel vibes. And also, why is Wasp in the title? Nothing against her at all, but they just completely sidelined her character most of the movie. Like, at least in the Marvels, there's a good focus on all three, which I'll share my thoughts on that in a second. But you can say, this is an embarrassing start for Phase 5, and let's hope it just gets up from here. Anyways, this movie unfortunately has landed itself at D tier, and if I was considering an F tier, it would probably make it spot. So this gets a 1.5 out of 5. MODOK, you did nothing wrong. I actually kind of liked you. Next up is a hopeful entry with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This movie is 100% better than the last movie I talked about. This movie makes me so giddy. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the trilogy is honestly one of the best in the MCU. This movie feels so layered and also has so much emotion, but still retains the feel that made the first two great. This definitely still holds up 2 years later and is one of the strongest post-Endgame movies in the MCU. James Gunn just has the magic touch with these characters, and to say that he's moved on to DC makes me optimistic for the future of those movies. It's so refreshing rewatching this after watching Quantumania. Volume 3 feels very mature and more character-focused than the first two movies, and it's one of the strong elements that keeps the movie going. It branched out in the use of music as well, with a stellar soundtrack that, in my opinion, beats the first two. The inclusion of Adam Warlock was freaking awesome. I don't understand those who don't like his character, but I love Will Poulter, and so I loved how they used him in this movie. This movie is filled with heart from every moment, and it's really hard for me to find flaws when I just absolutely love it. For a general audience perspective, I can see why they might not like how Gamora is handled in this film, but if you follow the MCU, you'll understand why she's different. Another strong aspect of this film is the integration of Rocket's backstory. It's heavy, slightly darker, but important to the context of the story. Rocket's one of my favorite Guardians, and honestly would love to see a special presentation on how he met Groot. Overall, phenomenal movie, and best of the saga as of now. Who knows, Thunderbolts could ultimately dethrone this one quickly, but I'll talk about that one in a second. This one gets a solid 5 out of 5, and lands itself in S tier. Next, we have The Marvels. Time for my unpopular opinion. I think this movie is really good and charming, but hear me out for a second. They definitely improved upon the character of Captain Marvel in this movie. She's honestly a lot of fun. Monica is also a great part of this movie, and it was fun to see her on the big screen. But what makes this movie really fun, and honestly made it a good time, is Miss Marvel. She steals every scene she's in, and she's 100% in this movie and gives it her all. I love the dynamic between the three characters. There's a lot of funny moments, and moments that surprised me. One of my favorite moments is the training scene where they're all trying to practice how to figure out their powers together, and they're intertangling, and I thought that was a lot of fun. Another standout of the movie, I love Kamala's family. I thought that was a lot of fun. And the musical Planet was a lot of fun as well. But, in my opinion, the funniest part of the movie was when they're herding cats. Honestly, I thought this was hilarious. Was this movie absolutely over the top? Ridiculous? Yes. But did it play that up and have fun? Heck yeah. I feel like the difference between the ridiculousness of Quantumania versus this lies with execution. This movie, I feel like, plays into how ridiculous it is, whereas Quantumania takes itself seriously while still being ridiculous. This movie also feels more consistent with its tone throughout the entirety of the movie. The movie isn't without flaws, having one of the worst villains in the entire MCU, who feels very underwhelming and just, I feel like a rehash of multiple different villains. I feel like her performance was very weak and wasn't very fun. Her motivation seemed basic and dull. Despite that though, this is a very fun movie. If you haven't seen it or haven't watched it in a while, I say give it a chance. It's a lot of fun. Also, the implications of this movie are going to be very important for Avengers Doomsday, especially after that great post-credit scene. This movie gets a B. And probably, I would say, a 3.5 out of 5. Next up, this is where things get a lot of fun. We have Deadpool and Wolverine. I am still hyped every time I watch this. Nothing beats the first experience of watching this, but every rewatch since still makes me very happy. I love this movie so freaking much. It's honestly so much fun, and it still holds up pretty well in my opinion. I also think it's the best Deadpool movie. This movie is hilarious and brutal at times. It's also heartfelt and overall a grand time. Though it still has its great cameos, I appreciate it for not being over the top. This felt like an appropriate send-off to the Fox universe. We know we're obviously not done with that universe because of the casting of Avengers Doomsday, but definitely the funniest MCU movie to date. I love Deadpool, but I also love Wolverine. Wolverine is one of my favorite Marvel characters, and seeing him in this comic-accurate attire was chef's kiss. I really hope for Doomsday that when they show the X-Men, that they will feature the comic-accurate costumes as well. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But overall, this movie is pretty solid and such a blast. This one gets an A, or 4.5 out of 5. And then we have Captain America Brave New World. For fidelity reasons, and for the sake of the MCU Rewatch series, I felt like it was an appropriate time to go to my local dollar theater, which was still playing this, and give it a good old rewatch. Let's start with what I originally thought. First off, I really enjoyed this movie, the first time around. Personally, didn't understand the hate people had with this movie. Going back to see it, the flaws definitely stood out a lot more, but it still doesn't make it a bad movie. It suffers with its own identity and pacing while still giving us the fantastic characters, moments, and exciting action. I'm a big fan of Sam Wilson as Captain America. He feels like an underdog. He doesn't have a lot of powers, and he's just new to the role. I also found myself really liking Joaquin Torres' new Falcon. He's quippy and a great sidekick character. Thunderbolt Ross is also a standout. His character is dynamic and complicated, and I loved seeing Red Hulk, but wish we got to see more of that. One of the most frustrating parts for this movie is the leader, aka Samuel Stearns. I get it, he's an explainer villain full of exposition, and it was good to see that they settled something they set up 16 years ago. But it just felt lackluster at times, but not as frustrating as Giancarlo Esposito's character. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal actor, but definitely a wasted opportunity in my opinion. Overall, this movie is good, but that's about it. The first half drags on a bit, but picks up towards the end of the second act, and stays strong for about the rest of the movie. Props to Marvel for finally discussing Celestial Island. Well, I mean, it was a major part of the plot, but something needed to be said. This one gets a C, or 3 out of 5. Now we have the final movie of Phase 5, which is Thunderbolts, asterisk. I want to preface by saying mental health is very important to me. I work in a mental health related field, and I've faced many mental health challenges in my life, and I've been around those who have too. So this movie spoke to me in a lot of ways. That is probably what left the biggest impact from this movie. Overall, from someone who loves the MCU, despite the occasional stinkers, this is what I love. A character and story driven movie with a great soundtrack and overall a fantastic cast. This is definitely currently, in my opinion, the best post-Endgame movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and honestly one of my top 5 MCU movies currently. This might get changed over time, but I know this is a Marvel Rewatch series, and I technically haven't rewatched this yet since it just barely released, but I definitely do have the plans to do so eventually, but the time is not yet. So my opinions could change, but for now, this movie secures its spot in S tier, or 5 out of 5. Well, that was Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or at least the movies of Phase 5. Alright, let's pull out my nifty little tier list showcasing everything of the multiverse saga so far. And I just want to mention that I did adjust things a little bit. I technically put Loki in front of No Way Home for now. I've reevaluated my thoughts and I will explain that more in my series of Phase 5 video. But No Way Home is still amazing and it still deserves a spot in S tier. So I'm going to go from top to bottom for my ranking of Phase 5 movies. Starting with Thunderbolts, which is S tier. Like mentioned, this movie blew me away and is phenomenal, and I really want to see it again. And this goes at the top of the saga. Next up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is also S tier, and this lands its place right after Loki. Then following that, we have Deadpool and Wolverine, which makes its spot at the top of A tier for the multiverse saga. Then following that, we have The Marvels, which surprisingly is B tier, and this will go after Multiverse of Madness. Then on our C tier list, we have Captain America Brave New World, which will go in the top of the tier before Eternals. Then at the bottom, which could have been F if I really put in the effort to do so, I would have put Ant-Man 3, but it will stay in D tier at the bottom of D tier. Don't worry, it's not going to be at the end of the line. You'll find out in the next video. And then here is my overall Marvel Cinematic Universe ranking. I won't go into all of them, but that's where they lie. I might compile a better list in the future or do a quick rundown maybe before Avengers Doomsday releases, which will be next year. But until then, that is what it is before the Phase 5 series. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful time. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is still something that I treasure so deeply, and I'm excited to jump into the series of Phase 5, despite having to rewatch Secret Invasions, which I am not very excited for. But stay tuned for that. I will probably be releasing that towards middle July, or whenever the Ironheart show ever finishes. That's if that show ever releases. But we haven't seen a trailer yet, so that could change. But thank you again for watching. I have some other videos planning to be released soon. One being my Star Wars Original Trilogy rewatch, as well as a few movies that are planning to be released soon. So stay tuned for that. And go check out my TikTok. I just recently hit 500 followers on there, and I hope to get that on this channel one day. So check out that, and like, subscribe, and share this video. I would greatly appreciate it, and have a wonderful day. Bye!
The MCU is so back. For the 6th time in 5 years. I am so ready to make this video. Hey movie fans, it's your host from the Empty Popcorn Buckets Productions. I just got back from seeing Avengers KANG Dynasty. And okay, brace yourself. There will be a lot to unpack. First of all, shout out to Marvel for finally hitting the Multiverse of Madness button way too hard. We had every variant of Kang, including a French mine variant that used baguette boomerangs as its weapon. They called it Le Pain Infant. Don't speak French, but it was crazy. The entire third act took place in a Kang-themed IHOP in the Quantum Realm. It's called the International House of Paradox. They served syrup that reversed time. Scott Lang drank some and became his own dad. One of the most insane scenes in the movie. And they finally addressed the Celestial from Eternals. It is Rose from Titanic. I don't know how they got that, but she started crying. Turns out it's not a god, it's a Doombot with feelings. And a Spotify playlist full of sad, early 2000s Celine Dion music. I wasn't ready for that. And get this, ODJ came back as a variant, but not as Tony Stark. No, 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 no. We got the Tony Bulk, a billionaire golden retriever in a floating iron dog suit. I started to laugh and sob. During the movie, I even pre-ordered the hot toy of that character. I know, I spent money on it, but I had to. And now, let's get to the post-credits scene. Oh buddy, Deadpool kills the entire Fox universe. We have really, we watched the 20th Century Fox logo bleed. The X-Men started screaming. Logan threw popcorn at the camera. It was a piece of art. I'm telling you folks, this movie rewrote everything. The new big bad of the movie, it wasn't Kane. It was Miss Minutes fused with Ultron. They called her the Ultra Minute, who started singing soul tunes while melting timelines together and fixing them and putting them together. You saw characters clash into the same character. There was Spider-Knight, there was Iron in America, there was Dr. Blade. It was insane, but they all died at the end. It was insane. Wait, is this being monitored? This was a low traffic variant universe.